Discard that weak, pathetic flesh of yours. The Machine Age is here. Stellaris' new expansion is giving a boatload of options for players who want to receive perfection through cold, hard steel. Those of you who like machine, synthetic, or cybernetic empires, this is tailor-made for you. Machine empires have been given the gift of free will. New traits, civics, and ascension paths help you fine-tune your population. There's new portraits to model your empire with, and they'll even change retroactively based on your choices, which is pretty damn cool. They'll go great with the fancy new ship sets. To spotlight these additions, there are 3 new origins. Cybernetic Creed puts you on a holy path, leading your people to discard their weak flesh and don cybernetic appendages in their place. Synthetic Fertility puts you in a race against the clock to transplant your species' consciousness into the digital world and emerge as sentient machines. Arc Welders are robotic societies capable of building incredible feats of space engineering, mainly the new Superstructures, the Dyson Swarm and Arc Furnace. Front and center of the whole thing, and an addition the game sorely needed, is a new crisis, Satana, who wants to solve the problem of anguish and sadness in the galaxy by killing everyone. If she's not a big enough threat, there's also a new crisis path, Cosmogenesis, allowing players to unlock the secrets of the fallen empires and shape the very universe to their specifications. Now, that's a lot to process, and I'll be diving into all these new features to some degree in this video, but to make it digestible, I'm going to take a look at how each of these additions will impact you over the course of a game by running through a campaign in record time. Let's start with the new origins, given that's where all our games begin. These are pretty diverse and lean into different branches of the expansion. Arc Welders are the robotic option. Their homeworld is barren, but they're nothing if not resourceful. They get a fast track to megastructure building and start with an arc furnace in their home system, which provides a huge boost to materials and alloys. I'll talk more about the new structures soon, but these provide a big push in the mid-game. Worth noting that due to the new robotic empire changes, you can choose whichever government you want for these guys, even making them a robo-megacorp if you want. Next is Synthetic Fertility, which is my personal favourite. Your people have lost the ability to reproduce, and you are racing against the clock to transplant your empire's consciousness into digispace before imprinting it on new mechanical beings. This really made the early game feel exciting, as you essentially have a ticking time bomb about to go off. If and when you manage your grand plan, it does feel impactful. Like you've got a clear before and after. As I said, this is my favourite just as it adds a bit of pressure to liven up the early game, but it won't be the playthrough I'm running through today, because I'm almost certain the most popular choice will be the Cybernetic Creed. Yes, all of you who wanted the Adeptus Mechanicus in Stellaris, this is basically it. A culture that puts its salvation in the righteous fusing of man and steel. The flesh is weak, and solace comes through progress. Though, despite numerous religious cults forming around the holy powers of cybernetics, you still can't make these guys both spiritual and materialistic. Go figure. Anyway, let's look at how a playthrough in the Machine Age plays out with my newly suited and booted Cybernetic Creed, the Evandarian Order. You could call these guys the Adeptus Mechanicus, but I definitely shall not. So the first thing you'll notice with the Cybernetic Creed, aside from a sense of pompousness and arrogance, is the bickering factions fighting for a voice on your empire's stage. These all ultimately want the same thing, cybernetic enhancement, but they each have ulterior aims. You'll either have to pick a side or try and appease them all. Aside from that, the early game plays out as normal. There's not much to see here. I expanded, found some juicy choke points, fought a few wars, though not much was gained from them. I met a neighbouring empire which I casually referred to as the Pussbags. Aside from minor skirmishes, the galaxy was pretty calm, until a rampaging spectral wraith leviathan ate a good chunk of my empire, and then the Pussbags invaded and subjugated me. Solid start. After a series of blunders, I figured this was rock bottom, and the only way is up. Time to exploit some planets and swallow some stars with the new megastructures. The Arc Furnace and Dyson Swarm are available sooner than the other grand feats of engineering, and their positioning in the tech tree feels ideal. It's right at that point where you need a little bit of a kick in the mid-game. The Swarm is placed around a star, and the Furnace atop a molten planet. Once built, they will massively increase the output of the object or surrounding area, and can be upgraded multiple times to keep those gains going up and up. They're also not hugely expensive, and they will pay for themselves in no time at all. This was the Order's ticket out of the mess I'd got them in, and I'd planned to block out every sun and smother every planet with these bad boys, though my excitement was cut short upon realizing I could only have 3 of each. Now that's not me criticizing the system, that's me having a jab at my own stupidity. 3 is more than enough, though you can increase that cap later. So placement of these does matter. You want to find particularly juicy star for your swarm and a system with lots of mineral deposits for your furnace. Just don't do what I did. Plan a little before you put them down. It's worth noting that you can also find abandoned versions of these from long dead empires, and bringing them online will give a hefty boost to your empire. Be on the lookout for those. With my arc furnaces and Dyson swarms up and running, my economy got a much needed boost. I funneled all those gains into swelling my navy with the hopes of freeing myself from the clutches of my pussbag overlords. While this new goal went into motion, I had forgotten about my people's primary purpose. You know, the whole fusing of cat and machine by holy order. Remembering that that was the most important thing in the galaxy, I threw my navy into a war with a weaker neighbor. A liberation and freedom war, in that I was liberating their pops from their comfy homes and providing them the freedom to toil away in my factories against their will. I'll tell you this, you won't make many friends in your pursuit of cybernetic perfection. As the unorthodox immigration program went into effect and my population swelled, the grand cybernetic quest gained momentum. The holy creeds that were vying for a platform were gaining sway, and I had a choice to make. Do I try to appease all of them and have them coexist in harmony, make them merge into one big super church, or dismiss the lesser organizations and put all of my faith into the most prominent one? Whatever you choose will change which buildings you'll get and alter the effects a little. Now, I've done my fair share of cybernetic playthroughs in Stellaris, for the obvious reason that, well, cyborgs are cool. Having the origin in play definitely adds a lot more flavor to the whole thing, and as you get closer to your divine purpose, the events do get more dramatic. You feel like there's a grand plan gaining momentum, and as you finally achieve cybernetic perfection, it all stops. This bugged me. I was expecting some sort of fanfare or fireworks, but it was very much a, you did it, well done, and then move on. It didn't really feel different from when I'd done the same thing pre-expansion, which was a bit of a letdown. But there was something else to look forward to, the new crisis. My original plan was to split off and explore the new Cosmogenesis crisis path, but unfortunately my idiocy meant I was still a vassal. I tried to lean into subterfuge to extort enough favors to go independent, but that didn't work. But as I ticked into the endgame, I had another option. From the depths of space emerged Sertana. She came with a noble, albeit insidious goal, to rid the galaxy of suffering. To end the misery and plight of consciousness. You can either stand in the way of her progress, or rally behind her and support her mission. I opted to assist her, not because I believed in her cause, I simply figured she'd be able to rid me of my bloody Xenos overlord problem. So she set some goals, asked for help, requested a few pops as helpers, and I was happy to give her anything she asked for. I will say straight up, this feels a lot more interesting compared to the other endgame crises. It's more nuanced. It's not intergalactic menace rocks up and melts faces, there's several ways to approach it. Of course you can fight fire with fire, but you can also get into her good books and help her. You can sabotage her convoys and attempt to aid detection. You can attack her outpost, slowing her progress, or even attempt indirect covert ops. It's a lot more story and event driven. It feels like the galaxy is ticking into a looming threat, rather than having that threat show up on your collective doorsteps one day. As the years passed, the threat grew. The aid she requested increased in scope, and so did the rewards. The Galactic Council tried to rally its members to stop her. Now, I could have nothing to do with that madness, so I attempted to storm out of the vote, once again forgetting that I was a vassal. The universe was about to be turned inside out, so I figured, carpe diem. Independence War. Can't doom my people twice. The campaign raged on, killing millions, but my Catborgs came out victorious. Newly independent, the Evandarian Order had gone against the will of the galaxy and were firmly on the side of Sertana. Though, despite being her loyal pawn to the end, when it came to the final stage of her plan, guess who was on the first line of the chopping block? That's right, probably should have seen it coming a mile off. Now, I'm not sure if there is actually a way to fully side with her and have this play out differently. It felt a bit strange following her orders to a T and having a branching set of approaches, only for them to all come back to one single point. I hope there are some alternate consequences depending on the actions taken, else it all feels like whatever choices you make don't really matter. or failing that, knowing that helping or hindering her actually has an impact on her final strength. But I guess we'll know that for sure as more players get their hands on her. But anyway, Satana had hung me out to dry. I'd abandoned all of my friends in the galaxy, not that I had many to begin with, and in a last-ditch effort I sent my entire armada to Satana-controlled space. Other empires also sent theirs, and a fleet the likes the galaxy had never seen was amassing. So what happened next? What was the grand and final conclusion? Well, I don't want to spoil everything about the crisis for you. I'll leave Satana a little bit of mystery. If you really want to know, I'll tell you in the comments. All in all, the crisis is a step above the others currently in the game. It's a lot more drawn out and takes longer to get going, but that adds a real sense of gravity to it. Felt a lot more like a galaxy-wide struggle rather than something spawning in and being deleted before it can even gain a foothold. So the crisis is the highlight of the expansion for me. It's an interesting approach, and whilst it does take longer to play out, it kept me engaged longer than the other endgame crises typically would. So that's one big tick for the expansion. I also really liked the new superstructures. They have a place and feel worthwhile. The little touches were also welcomed. New portraits, empire traits, civics, stuff like that. Also the art design, new visuals, new ships, I love them. There's a few new music tracks as well that really go hard. Though saying all that, I was very underwhelmed by some aspects. I figured the Cybernetic origin was going to be a slam dunk, but I felt it lackluster. Sure, there's the new events and some minor mechanics, but I've done a few playthroughs in the past in that general gist, and really things didn't feel all that different. It was just exactly how I expected it to be. I figured there'd be a bit more surprise and fanfare. Saying that though, I thought the synthetic fertility origin to be much more immersive and interesting. When they complete their goal, it feels like a huge moment. There is a definitive before and after, and that was exactly what I was hoping for with the Cybernetic Creed. Is it worth the money? Honestly, I'm not sure. My first impression is that it's too light on content to be considered an expansion. The crisis is solid. The gameplay changes are decent. Cybernetic, mechanical, and synthetic empires are just more interesting now. So if you like those playstyles, I'd say it's worth it. I think the expansion enriches the game, but there will be playthroughs where you just won't even know it's there. It's not like a Utopia or Federations where the impact can be felt to some degree every playthrough. But then, that might also be an issue with Stellaris' core design. The more content that's made, the less impact each individual piece has. It gets harder and harder to tell if it's worth it the bigger the game gets. I think this makes the game better, but don't go expecting fireworks. This is a slow burn, impacting a bunch of playthroughs in smaller, subtler ways. Ultimately, I'm not going to say go for it, but I'm also not going to say don't. It's entirely situational. I think this is on the pricey side for what it is, but if you hate organic empires and only want to play as robots or cyborgs, well then you are going to get value out of this. But anyway, let's wrap this up. I had a blast making this. I love Stellaris and working on this was a lot of fun. If you want to see more on the game, let me know in the comments. I need barely any encouragement. I just want to go for round 2 with the pus bags and really give them what for. Please drop me a like and subscribe to see more strategy content, and if you really want to go the extra mile, have a gander at the Patreon link in the description box. There's no pressure there, but there's a lot of content on all sorts of things that might grab your fancy. But anyway, thanks so much for your time, and for any of you planning on conquering the galaxy in the near future, Godspeed and good luck. And if you see these guys out there, tell them to go f*** themselves from me. Thanks.